Peace be. I'm going to be sharing some teachings on morality from the great book, also known as the Kolbrin, which is a text originating from ancient Egypt. Which goes so in depth on so many things, man. I'm so thankful to God for revealing this book to me so that I can share it with you. It's helped me the teachings in it so far have helped me to realize things about myself I really need to let go and improve. Things about myself I really need to embrace. This video is going to mainly consist of moral teachings, stuff that has to do with morality. And I'm mainly focusing on that because I feel like I've been lacking in that area for some time. And I feel like we all could use a little bit of upliftment in that area. And it's absolutely essential for any true spiritual awakening. Morality, a moral foundation, must be before you can expand further. So I'm just going to be reading. I'm not going to be announcing what book and what verse. I'm just going to be reading, so enjoy. Start here. Those who turn away from the glorious jewel within to seek an outside God, a separate, unresponsive being, are looking for a mere trinket, while disregarding the priceless treasure already in their keeping. Men of light worship the vision of light. Men of darkness and ignorance worship ghosts and dark spirits, demons of the night. There are men who, moved by dark beliefs or their carnal lusts and perverted passions, perform awful austerities, and self-mutilations never ordained by me. They delight in tormenting the life and spirit within their bodies. They are truly deluded victims of the darkest form of ignorance. Yet some derive pleasure from their pains and torments, and so continue them. But these may be truly described as mutilated souls. Some follow gods who punish wickedness and reward good, and therefore tend towards goodness. But is it not folly to follow non-existent gods? All men choose their own spiritual destiny, whether it be done knowingly or not. For under the law, their future state must rest in their own hands. I am the God who ordained the law, and nothing man can do will change it. My love alone mitigates the consequences of man's unredeemed wickedness. I am the changeless one. Could a God of love become a God of vengeance? Revenge is something alien to me. Therefore, is it reasonable that men should believe I could be one thing today and then, because they fall into error, become something else tomorrow? My nature is not as that of man. I am as I am. I am not influenced by the mere formal actions of men, or by empty sacrifice, lighted lamps and candles, Days of fasting and self-mortification by man cannot sway me in his favor. I am not to be bribed, for I am God. He who handles fire carelessly and gets burnt cannot blame the fire. Neither can he who goes into swift waters and drowns blame the waters. There are laws, the violation of which brings retribution in its train. They who by their own deeds bring upon themselves cannot blame me for what ensues. These are the effects of the lesser laws which are easily understood. But above these is the great law, which is not so incomprehensible. Under this, the link between the deed and the effect is not so apparent. Men bring down calamity and suffering upon their own heads and blame me, when the fault lies with them, and the cause is their own misconduct or misconception. Men reap as they sow, and I am the fertile field, which takes no part in the sowing or the reaping. Man is his own master and the lord of his own destiny, and he cannot expect help from any great power unless he himself expend effort to contact such power or be deserving of such help. Everything a man is or becomes is the result of his own striving and efforts, or his lack thereof. I made man to be a man, not a mere puppet or a nursling. I am the God of the law. Man is the heir to divinity, and the road to divinity is spirituality. Man cannot become spiritual except through his own efforts and striving. He cannot achieve it by being led by the hand or through fear of punishment, nor by greed through anticipation of a reward. He who enters into his heritage of divinity will be no weakling. He will have trodden a hard and stony path. Man has two ways of knowing me. He can know me through his own spiritual awakening, or through the continued revelation of moral law and divine purpose by my inspired servants. To know me through a spiritually awakened self is the way of certainty, but few can suffer its austerities and disciplines. Man. When the spirit of man is unawakened, he cannot know the great self within him, of which he is a part. Not knowing his true nature and unable to see clearly, he is blinded by material delusions. Would not the creatures of the night, which never see the sun, deem the moon to be the most brilliant light in the sky above? So it is with the man walking in the darkness of spiritual unconsciousness. He says, I am the body, and the body is my whole being. And in the delusion of that belief, he becomes ensnared in an existence bound to matter, like the creatures bound to an existence in the night, which cannot know the glories of things flourishing in the brilliance of daylight. So it is with men bound to the darkness of spiritual ignorance. As a shadow in the night is mistaken for an intruder, or a mirage is mistaken for a pool of clear water, so does the spiritually immature man mistake the material body for the whole living being. What cause have we for sorrow? We are in a bountiful land. We have hope for the future and an unshakable faith. Better by far than all of these, we have with us the key to the ancient portal of communication. I think that's talking about the Ankh. Linking in with our throat chakra. Our memories must replace the books and decrees of former times. Let us therefore be thankful for our blessings and diligently preserve the flame from which the lamps of truth will one day be relit. In days gone by, you have had leaders to guide you, but before them were even greater leaders whom you have not known. The inspiration of their words is something that must never be lost. It must be preserved for all time. We must be like a man who has traveled far with a heavy burden. He rests and seeks among the things he carries to find what can be discarded, knowing that he still has a long way to go. The choice you must make has to be made soon, for the years remaining to our Father cannot be plentiful. We must establish a community where men can live together and where they can enjoy the companionship of women. Men always benefit from united effort, but this is inseparable from necessary restrictions. Let the restrictions imposed be such that no man can feel resentment because of the restraints set upon him. Let the only ordinances and restrictions imposed be founded upon the nature of man and upon spiritual and moral values. We must seek to assure freedom of action for every man and woman, so long as it does not prejudice the equal rights of others. We must work for the benefit of the many, but in doing so we must not overlook the provision of rewards for those who serve best. The rewards must go to the men who are best in all ways, and not to the worst. We must see that good lives are rewarded and evil ones are punished. We must place the greatest value on things spiritual. And no man must be unduly rich or unduly poor. We must provide for the sick and the helpless, for the old and for the incapable. We must assure the integrity of the family. The first objective must be the spiritual goal, which is the only proper one for all men. After that, all instruction and law should be bent towards an increasingly harmonious relationship between every living being. The upbringing of children must have its objective. The upbringing of children must have as its objective the attainment of well-balanced manhood and womanhood. That's so true. This is talking about the brotherhood of man. From some of my previous postings, you may have seen me speak about it, but the brotherhood that the great Master Jesus belonged to. The brotherhood of light. They who are to be highly esteemed. And looked upon with reverence. They who we are to be gracious for supplying us with the light and with the teachings of wisdom, with the highlighting of the paths of truth and of wholeness. Thanks and exaltation to all the great masters of the great brotherhood. We must make men high-minded and above all pettiness. They must be upright and rejoice in their manhood. They must possess courage and fortitude equal to any trial, for there will be many trials. They must be prepared to endure oppression and persecution with self-control and a calmness which no misfortune or calamity can shake. They must also be such men that good fortune and abundance does not weaken them. We must teach men to be quick in decision and deliberate in judgment, because in numbers we are like 2 grains of sand in the desert. We must seek converts diligently. We must be a guiding light before the eyes of all men, leading them along the paths of honest labor rather than power. We must teach men their duty towards others, so that no man ever says, "Unless I place my own welfare first, no other will." Duty, serving each other. We must teach men their duty towards others, so that no man ever says, "Unless I place my own welfare first, no other ever will." We must seek out and accept suitable converts, and they must be particularly precious to us. We must hold them in high regard, not because they have accepted our beliefs, but the good within them can be developed within their own. But because they assume willingly and cheerfully the great duties and obligations peculiar to us. We must always remain a brotherhood engaged in an organized quest for truth. We must ensure that the teachings we expound are valid everywhere and among all men as a code of goodness. Every law, whether arising in the sphere of spirit or the sphere of matter, suppresses something arising out of the nature of man, and therefore calls for the exercise of restraint and forbearance. Yet, is it not true that through every just law, though every just law restrains something within men and women, it also restricts evil and things which are not good? The less a law imposes upon men and women, the more it imposes upon the things detrimental to their welfare. The better the law, the less a law imposes upon men and women, and the more it imposes upon the things detrimental to their welfare, the better the law. All laws are paid for out of the treasury of freedom. The lower the cost, the better the law. The laws of earthly rulers are kept by force of arms, but the keeping of the higher spiritual laws can only be ensured through enlightenment and wisdom. The causes of misjudgments, sorrow, and remorse stem more frequently from breaches in spiritual laws than in earthly laws. Moral laws and restraints are essential to the progress and welfare of mankind. When passions are unrestricted and weaknesses unfenced by moral laws, various forms of vice and perversions become accepted, and they sap the stamina of nations. When the abnormal is given free access to intrude upon the normal, the nation degenerates. The race is contaminated, and mankind suffers a reverse. The great law places an obligation upon mankind to improve itself. Every man and woman must safeguard their heritage and raise themselves above earthly sordidness. This is one of the reasons for living. The struggle of life is with man. The struggle of man is with himself. Wise leaders in every land and age have made laws restraining the weak and abnormal from satisfying their carnal appetites and immoral urges. If their own uncontrolled desires were allowed freedom to dictate their actions, then not only would the weak and abnormal destroy themselves, but they would be like a cancer in the living body of mankind. We have a need for discipline. We have a need for that moral foundation. The sacred books tell us that the nature of man contains a sense of shame. This is so, and it is there that he may also know the meaning of decency and be proud of himself as a man. It is there to make a better state known to him, a state of spiritual cleanliness and purity. Such knowledge does not come naturally to man any more than good pastures come naturally to the husbandman. The city over the hill was founded in goodness, and its founders were not men. The city over the hill was founded in goodness. Its founders were not men who found pleasure in wickedness. Nonetheless, as the years passed, it became apparent that all was not well within its walls. Now, because of the inclination of its inhabitants, the city's days are numbered. Men come across the sea in ships from the south, bringing things much sought after by the people who surround us, who go into the city to exchange the things that they have caught or grown, or which they have dug out of the ground. Things are exchanged in the marketplace of the city, but they are for the enjoyment of the body, not the satisfaction of the soul. Nonetheless, men will always be driven by their very natures to seek for and obtain things which do not satisfy any earthly appetite. Such things are those which delight the hearts of men by their beauty, or bring inward joy and contentment. Seek after the things which bring you that inner joy. Also the things which bring pleasure to loved ones, and things which inspire men to noble deeds. With all the earthliness of man, the things most sought and desired are those which stir the forces within the soul, and not the forces within the body. When it is otherwise, mankind will slip backwards towards the beasts. Life is yours. That you requested it not is of small consideration, for the choice was not with you. Therefore, accept with good grace that which has been allotted to you, deriving from it whatever benefits it may bestow. The benefits are great, and were they readily apparent, life would be accepted with due gratitude, and endured, whatever its afflictions, with resigned anticipation life. The benefits are great, and were they readily apparent, life would be accepted with due gratitude, and endured, no matter what the afflictions. With resigned anticipation, life, if so lived, would be futile, and its purpose confounded. Therefore, only by dire efforts can man come to know the everlastingness of his soul. The law decrees that man shall never be assured of his immortality. Life must be lived from the beginning to the end. Run the race easily, for the course is long, and the runner who runs the race best is he who conserves his strength in the early laps. Be not disturbed or overwhelmed when misfortune accompanies your passage along the way. Be not dispirited when the pace is hard, or faint before the obstacles. Accept the challenge of adversity with high spirits, for as the flame is to wax and the furnace to copper, so is adversity to the soul. Every sorrowful blow that falls upon the soul is a tempering stroke. The metal that suffers the fires of the furnace longest is the finest in quality. So we are tried through the fires of tribulation and of adversity. Pain is the teacher. Pain expedites the revelation of wisdom. Every sorrowful blow that falls upon the soul is a tempering stroke. Oh, I already read that part. Give prudent thought towards tomorrow's problems, but let them not tax your mind unduly. For problems in the womb of the future may be stillborn. Though the pathway of life be uneven, the going is not always rough. Take it as you find it, but beware where the going is smooth, for there evil will set its trap. Danger lurks where least expected. When you journey without possessions, you journey without care. But when you are burdened with many goods, they bring the attention of evil men. Know that life is unimportant unless properly lived. A noble death is better than a wasted life. Whoa, that's deep. He who exchanges a life of wickedness for a worthy death makes amends, and the scales are adjusted. Accordingly, let your aim be to live as long as you should and not as long as you can. While to others your life is worth more than death, then your duty is to preserve it. While to others your life is worth more than death, then your duty is to preserve it. For instance, if your children